This is Jablam Hockey with your hosts, Peter Wojcicki and Paul Swinbeck. Welcome to Jablam Hockey. I'm your host, Peter Wojcicki, and I'm with
Paul Swinbeck. Welcome back, Peter.
Thanks, it's great to be back.
How was your trip?
It was good. It was very good. It was a well-needed 2 weeks of relaxing. My voice is still out of it. My throat. I'm going to the doctor. I even went all right. As soon as I woke up today, that was the first thing. I was like, I got to go to the doctor and get this whole throat thing settled. And now I got to go back at like 7 p.m. now. It's a big lineup. Brampton. It's crazy with people lining up to see the doctor. But hopefully I get my antibiotics soon and my throat is fixed because that's been bothering me. Other than that, vacation was beautiful. I was under the sun all the time, drinking some beer a little bit here and there, and keeping up with my cardio. And got to play tennis a few times, which was nice. Some 80-year-old people were whipping my butt on the tennis court because I haven't played in years, but it was still good to get on the court for a bit.
Nice. And you come back to snow.
Yep. And you? Yeah. Now I come back to this. At least we got lucky. We were only delayed about 40 minutes coming into Pearson, into Toronto. But we got lucky. Pretty much everybody got canceled pretty much right after our flight dropped. So that was a crazy snowstorm the last day and a half for us, eh?
Yeah. About, I think, 12 centimeters where I am and 20 in spots. So yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah, we got about 20. The snow was up to my knee here.
Oh, jeez.
So, yeah, it was a pretty rough ride home. Our taxi guy dropping us home, he was just steaming all the way to our place. It was all right, it's not our fault that you're taking us, because he's a East Side Toronto driver from Markham and everything. He wants to go back there, and he thought he was going to finish his shift, and they made him take one more person. And he's dropping us off on the west part, I guess, in North Brampton. And, of course, with the snowstorm, it took us an hour to get home.
Yeah.
Usually, if there's no snow to get from my house to the airport, it's under 15 minutes. It took us almost an hour.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so be careful out there. But the roads look pretty clean from what I saw when I went to go try to see the doctor this morning. The roads look really good. And that's expected of us Canadians. We get right out there and get the shovels going, and we get the snow plows going too.
Oh yeah, and snow doesn't stop us. I went to hockey last night, so there's no big deal.
So how did that go?
Only 5 guys showed up, so we played 5-on-5, and we did not leave the ice. Played 32-minute shift is what my shift was last night. So
been there, done that.
Yeah, take that, Drew Doughty.
Suck in some pond water.
Yeah, it was.
Or what? Or goalie's water, was it, right?
Yeah, we were huddled around the goalie net. That was the only water bottle that we could get to. Yeah, it was. We lost 4-1, but we kept it 1-1 until about a minute and a half left in the game, so. Yeah, oh well.
Sounds like the player from the HL. Did you see that, Paul? He crashed into net, and then he started drinking the goalie's water.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Check it out. It's probably on YouTube. Hilarious. But let's get into it. Last night, we wanted to do the show last night, but Paul was tired from hockey. I was tired because drinking a little bit the night before, waking up for 3 hours, and then the flight and everything, and I was totally out of it. So we want to talk about it, but at least I got to see a little bit of it, and last night was the new rivalry, the McEichel, McDavid versus Eichel. Did you catch some of the game, Paul?
I did, and I watched some of the highlights this morning, and yeah, I watched the overtime from start to finish. That overtime was crazy. Robin Lehner played unbelievable. Both
goalies were really good in the game. I saw the second half of the game when I got back, and yeah, it was a great game. It was so back and forth, especially McDavid and Eichel. They looked great out there, and this is going to be a great rivalry to come. And it was a great start with McDavid getting the huge winner in both goals for the Oilers, 2 goals in the night, so that's great.
Oh, his first goal was ridiculous. He deked the pants off of Lehner. It was crazy. Or not Lehner. Lehner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a crazy goal. And his overtime goal, he's got such deceptive speed. It's crazy to watch.
It's crazy. It's like he just cuts right in front out of nowhere. Like you don't expect it. The defenseman is totally unaware of what he's going to do, and then he just splits right through you, and he goes right around. McDavid's. He's almost like, I don't know. It's hard to say, but kind of like the way Crosby was when he was a few years ago, and he has more of like a bit of a power forward instinct that he can just grab a hold of for a couple seconds and power through some players. So it's crazy great to watch.
Yeah, and the defensemen, they don't know how to gap control with him. Like they try and gap control him coming over the blue line, and then just out of nowhere they're like, oh, he's beside me with the puck. Like it's really awesome to watch, and Eichel's reach is unreal. Like that guy's got a huge reach. I don't know how he plays with such a long stick and dangles the way he does with that long stick that he has, but Eichel played well too. He almost finished the game in OT. So
it was right back and in his face.
Yeah.
Did you hear that after the game too? The commentators are like, "Oh, so you had that great chance and you almost scored, and then he went back on the ice and he scored. And how do you feel about this rivalry?" And Jack, you could see in his face, he was not happy at all. Especially, I guess, the whole comparison between the two. And he's like, "It's a team game. There are others on the ice."
That's funny.
Oh man, he wasn't too happy. But then the other rivalry in the night as well, the classic of Ovechkin and Crosby, Sid versus Ovi. Did you catch some of that game too?
Yes, I watched more of that game than I did the Buffalo game. I turned it on maybe halfway through the first and watched until almost the end of the game. I had to go for hockey, so missed the end.
And it wasn't as thrilling compared to McDavid versus Eichel. Ovi and Sid were pretty good, but the actual atmosphere I thought of the game was really high tempo for both teams, and it almost felt like a playoff game almost.
Yeah, and that Capitals crowd is unreal.
Yes, they were loud almost throughout the whole game.
They know how to turn it on when the Caps need the momentum, and that's going to be a hard burn to beat the Capitals in, for sure.
So, and again, Sid only got an assist and Ovi no points. But it was a good atmosphere, good game. Yeah,
Patrick Hornqvist has turned it on. He's starting to score. He's scoring a lot of dirty goals, a lot of goals in close, in the crease.
Yeah, he had a hat trick. How many guys had hat tricks while I was gone? It's like I go on vacation and everybody's having hat tricks.
I think it was like 7 days, 7 hat tricks in 7 days or something like that. It was crazy.
Forsberg took a part of the Leafs, and then he got a hat trick the next day as well, or something.
Yeah, he's been unreal. Him and Craig Smith are playing unbelievable together, and Mike Ribeiro adding to that. But Forsberg just scoring at an elite rate right now. It's crazy.
Crazy. All right, let's get into the episode. You know what we have on tap for this episode. We're going to be talking about the trade deadline stuff. We got the Zach Ronaldo suspension. We got who played for Leafs on Monday. Did you see that? The next generation of Leafs were in Monday night. I didn't get to see the game. I hope to. I hope I can maybe find some clips online. Maybe I can at least see the 6-minute version. And again, they're going to be playing tonight, so I'll be watching that. And lastly, Paul will give you the prospect of the week. So let's get into it. First thing, Paul, what do we have for the fans out there?
We have just launched our website, jablamhockey.com.
Boom.
Brand spanking new. Looks beautiful.
Yes. It is great. And you know what? I actually wanted to say something that I want to say right at the top of the show, but I want to thank someone out there. This person is a person that's worked their butt off. They've done a lot of work. They are working hard, and you know what? There are just a lot of work has been put into this, a lot of blood, a lot of spilt sweat, and that's my buddy Paul Zwambeg. Thank you, Paul, for the last week and a half of keeping the show together and doing a great job, and as well with this website. I have to tell you, folks, go out and check out the website. It's beautiful. He's done a great job putting this all together, and it looks great. It looks fabulous, Paul.
Yeah, and hopefully we're going to transition from Podomatic is who we're being hosted by for our podcasting, and we're going to try and host it ourselves. Might mean you, the listener, has to resubscribe, but we'll get into more details with that when the season starts to slow down. I think right now we're just getting amped up with the trade deadline, and then playoffs are coming, fantasy push, all kinds of good stuff coming. So right now we're just going to hold steady with Podomatic, but we will be moving over to our own hosting site. So tune in for that, and we'll let everybody know, and we'll tweet it out and Facebook it. So get in tune with that too. At Jablam Hockey, our Twitter account. So yeah, there's tons of stuff going on with Jablam. It's awesome.
Yes. Again, we're still follow us on iTunes. We're on Podomatic for right now, but we will be going to jablamhockey.com. And then, you can still follow us on Stitcher and Blueberry. And again, resubscribe to us within the next while, and we'll tell you when we're off Podomatic. Also, again, always, just like Paul was saying, Facebook, join the Facebook group. There's a lot of info on there about the show and all the other stuff we talk about and stats. And again, our horrible Saturday picks that we do. We're not great. We're around 500, at least hovering around there, but they're on there. And again, on Twitter, we are there. I'm at Russian98. And Paul?
At Zwambag, ZWAMBAG.
Yes. And also, look, folks, we are going to have shirt giveaways come playoffs of Jablam Hockey shirts. They're great. They're great shirts. We're getting them in, and they're going to look great, and we're going to have a few giveaways come playoffs.
Yeah. How?
All right, let's get into it.
Wait, what's our giveaway going to be? Have you come up with anything, or are we brainstorming still?
Well, no, we don't know what the giveaway questionnaire kind of thing is going to be. But it is going to be the hockey shirt is what you're going to win one of our Jablam Hockey shirts. But yeah, we still have to figure out. It's going to be, I know, something to do with how well certain players or teams do on the playoffs. I think something like that on that term. So you guys can think of which team might go far, or which player might do really well, that kind of thing.
Nice.
It goes well with, and we'll be talking about. I have my own hockey pool I do during playoffs. That's where I got the name from, Jablam Hockey, with my own hockey pool. And it kind of coincides with that, with picking how well you do in playoff picks and stuff like that. So look for that. All right, let's get into it. Zach Ronaldo gets a 5-game suspension for hitting Cedric Paquette.
Yeah, Paquette.
I believe. Right, Paul?
Yeah, Cedric Paquette, yeah.
Yes. So what did you think about the hit, Paul?
I think it could have been a couple more games with the guy that Zach Ronaldo's reputation is. He could have got more games, but 5, I think it should be the minimum with these kind of hits. Like, just give him 5. It's more punishable. It costs them more money. But yeah, I definitely agree with the 5-game suspension.
Yeah, with his history, I totally agree with it. If you look at the actual play, it's hard to fully tell if he gets a good hit on the head. But he raised his shoulder up and through the head area, which is just awful. And it's Ronaldo. He's known to do that. I know Jason Strudwick, I'm going to get into this a little bit, but I was watching because I was on the flight going home too, and I'm watching dinner television, I think in Edmonton Oiler Nation area, for City TV, and he went and said he should have got like 20 games. So that's a little bit much, but have you seen this dinner television, Paul?
No, I have not.
Yeah, it's a new thing, and of course we work somewhere else for Rogers and maybe in City. And I don't want to say this, but Paul, oh my God, it does not look good. I feel bad for Strudwick because he looks so stiff standing there, and the whole production kind of looks a little stiff. It's not as smooth and professional looking as I feel as, say, our breakfast television. They do a really good job in breakfast television. Toronto, it's flow moving, very relaxed attitude, and over there in Dillon television, I don't know, it's new. Maybe the personalities are a bit newer too, and they're not as comfortable. but I feel that they're even like we haven't even been doing this show that long, and I feel we are way more adjusted and comfortable in doing this than they are on the air doing dinner television. Very awkward. And Strudwick, when he's talking, he's stumbling a lot. It's very weird and very awkward to watch. So I felt awkward watching it.
Yeah, has he ever been a television personality before? Like
you know what? He's one of those guys where he became popular playing for the Oilers, and I think he's been a filler on like radio stations and stuff in Edmonton, kind of thing. So I guess as soon as they were looking for somebody and a bit of a sports guy, they got Strudwick because he's a bit of a popular guy in the community over there, and they put him on the air and stuff. So he was a good stay-at-home defenseman. I liked him, as an Oiler. A player, but but not just him. Even the other personalities on the show, kind of stiff. They're trying to seem loosey goosey kind of thing, but it just does not come off that way. But maybe our breakfast television needs a sports person. They don't really have one, but I think Hugh might have used to do it a few years ago. But then they kind of put down the sports thing. It's not as high profile on breakfast television anymore.
Hugh Burrell getting a shout out. Wow.
Yes. Hugh's great. I love Hugh.
Yeah.
And also I do want to say for City TV folk, a great retirement for Gord Martineau. Gord is great. I obviously being his camera guy, I get to talk with Gord quite a bit, and he's such a nice guy. He's really fun, laid back, and very professional.
Yep. So. I get a hello, sir, when I'm in the building, so it's always good.
All right, let's get into the main stuff, the meat of it, the trade deadlines. The big one, you have to go right with the big one, and I thought after, I thought the live thing would be the biggest one, but I mentioned it, that it could be, and it became Eric Staal. Eric Staal going to the Rangers. And what did Carolina get back, Paul?
Alexei Sorella, second-round pick in 2016 and a second-round pick in 2017. And and they had to retain 50% of Staal's contract.
Yeah, for the remainder of this season.
Yeah.
So that's a huge pickup for the Rangers.
Yeah, and he's not even going to be a top 2 line guy. He's going to be playing on the third line with Kevin Hayes. So
wow, that's good depth. That is really good. But what's the whole thing with Nash? They're still day to day, right?
Yeah, he's day to day. I don't even know if he's skating. It's a bone bruise, and
I was thinking they're bringing in Staal maybe just to replace Nash at least for a while.
Yeah, and think like back maybe 8-9 years ago and have Staal and Nash on the same team. Now the Rangers have them 8 years later. They're not nearly as good as they once were 8 years ago, but those two are going to be cool to watch. I hope they pair them up when Nash does come back, because they're both big boys that like to dig in the corners, and I hope it rejuvenates Eric Staal. He's
my old favorite country line for Team Canada: Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah.
But so he's a huge impact player. I still think the Canes did a pretty good job of getting 2 second-round picks. And even Sorella, who was drafted very late, right?
Yes,
but
I believe so.
He looked good in the World Juniors.
Yeah.
So, you know what? He could still be a bit of a decent impact player in the NHL. Still young, obviously, being 19 years old and everything. And he's a shorter center guy. So that's a bit, awkward being a short center. But hopefully he can transition, and maybe he might have to move to the wing.
Yeah, and it really depends on when he comes over to the North America, because he's playing in the Liga, which is the Finnish league. He's 32 points in 47 games. That's not too bad.
That's pretty good for a player his age, yeah. So, but good get for the Rangers. And do you think this puts the Rangers over the edge as long as Nash comes back and they're healthy?
Maybe. McDonough's still questionable. Like he's got that concussion issue, head issue. I hope he comes back as 100%, and he's not just fighting through the injury. But Lundqvist is just dominating. Like that guy can win a game. They win 1-goal games almost
all the time,
almost every other night. Yeah.
Yep.
He's just, if he gets hot, they'll be pushing. The Capitals are going to be tough to beat in the East, but Lundqvist can steal games, no problemo. So
we will talk a little bit more about this after we talk about who the Capitals got at the deadline. But let's get into the earlier trades. I don't know if this was right on the day or right before, but it was a pretty decent trade by Montreal, trading Fleischmann and Weiss to the Hawks for a second-round pick. And this is kind of weird. A lot of guys are trading 2017, 2018 picks already. Maybe in the future, people will be trading like 6 years down the road. But the Habs are getting a 2018 second-round pick and Philip Deneau, or as I like to call him, the Blue Jay from the show Under the Umbrella Tree, if you were a kid in my era. Anyways, did you ever see the show Under the Umbrella Tree, Paul?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, these puppets. It's old school. It's probably like TVO kind of stuff. But he looks exactly like this bird. Maybe I should put it on Facebook or something. I will put this on Facebook. Philip Deneau looks like the Blue Jay from Under the Umbrella Tree. I'm going to put it on the Facebook group for Jablam Hockey. But anyways, talking about the trade, these are good pieces that the Hawks have just added in Fleischmann and Weiss.
Yeah, Dutch Gretzky.
Yeah.
He's going to be probably third, fourth line. And the fact that he was fighting for first and second line minutes in Montreal, and now he's like guaranteed third, maybe even fourth. It's just wild. The Blackhawks are so deep. It's crazy.
Yeah. They added Ladd, now Fleischmann and Weiss, and these are guys that are on pace for almost like a 20-goal seasons, right? Weiss came flying out of the gate, but even if he's not scoring, he's a great guy, good depth guy on like the fourth line to give you a lot of energy.
And they're guys that like they did with Vermette, they can scratch him and not be hurt by it. Like,
yeah,
if they have a bad game going into the playoffs, that Quenneville's just going to sit him and be like, hey, learn to play our way. Like, show up every night, and it's not going to affect their lineup if they are scratched for a game or two, like Vermette was. And then Vermette came back and had a great playoff. So Quenneville's got a lot of options in that lineup. So they're going to be scary come playoff time.
Very scary, in a pretty scary division too.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. I still got to give it to the Hawks for this one. I think they won this trade, and they're better off for themselves in the playoffs. Yeah. And the Blues then they pick up Nilsson from the Oilers for a 5th-round pick and prospect Nicholas Lundstrom, the goaltender. So does that mean they're having goalie injury problems still, the Blues?
Yeah, Brian Elliott's out 4 weeks, so.
4 weeks, yeah.
They didn't want to go with Jake Allen, who just came back from his injury, and then I think Jordan Binnington's up right now with them, or was up with them. Now Nilsson's there, so this Anders Nilsson was pretty good for the Islanders a couple of years ago, and then he went to the Oilers, and they thought he might steal the net from Talbot, so that's great.
Yep.
Great goalie depth they just picked up there, so.
Mm-hmm.
And Hitchcock likes to juggle his goalies too. He's not gonna. I don't think he's just gonna stick with Jake Allen the rest of the year and go all the way. I think Nilsson will get into some decent games.
Yeah, every year, come like playoff time, especially with my hockey pool in the playoffs, I've never picked a Blues goalie, just for the fact that you don't know who Hitchcock is gonna play.
Yeah, they got 1A, 1Bs. There's no 1-2 goalie there. It's always a shared time slot. So
yeah. All right, let's move on to the bigger goalie trade, which is the San Jose Sharks. This is again not on the day, but a few days ago. The James Reimer trade. The San Jose Sharks pick up James Reimer and Jeremy Morin, the guy who Chicago traded to Toronto for Richard Panik. I guess he just didn't work out in the Leafs organization. They trade him to San Jose now. And the Leafs pick up, what? Alex Stalock, Ben Smith, and a conditional 4th? and this is the conditional fourth. If the Sharks happen to make the finals, I would be fairly shocked. It moves up to a third round pick.
Yeah.
So
I don't think Alex Stalock is as bad as people are assuming he is.
yeah,
He did beat out Thomas Greiss in that goalie depth chart in San Jose. Like, they moved on from Greiss because they had this Stalock kid. So look at what Thomas Greiss is doing with the Islanders, fighting for playoff or playing time against Halak. So
yeah. Have you looked into it? Is Stalock an RFA come this summer?
oh, I don't know that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I don't know. The way he's played this year, he looks more of a seat filler a little bit right now, especially the way he's played this year, right?
Yeah.
It hasn't been good, and just that, I don't know. No, he's a UFA come this summer.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm thinking that the Leafs just added him for now. I think they're even gonna send him down too to the Marlies. So we'll see what happens. I know the Leafs want to play Sparks a little bit more, give him some time maybe up here. So I don't know. I just feel that he's more of a seat filler. Ben Smith is a guy who's never made a huge impact in the NHL, more of a fourth liner guy when he's played. So technically, maybe they only really got that fourth round pick for James Reimer, which is just, in my opinion, a huge loss for the Leafs in this trade specifically. I know that Reimer is probably a UFA, and the huge thing was the rumor was that Reimer wanted, or at least his agent wanted, $7 million or something for Reimer. This is how contract negotiations go. You ask for a lot, they give you the low, and you slowly work towards a middle. Obviously, when you're asking, you're going to ask for something really high, and that's what his agent wanted. But of course, if they met close to the middle, it would have been like about a $4 million to $4.5 million contract, and I would have been fine with that as a Leaf fan for 2 to 3 years signing Reimer to that contract. Again, it's UFA, so some other team now might be able to get Reimer for next year. Maybe even the Flames or Nashville or something might go and get a James Reimer.
Yeah, and he might steal time from Martin Jones. Like, Martin Jones isn't as solid as everybody assumes. So, like,
it's his first year. This is kind of like when Bernier came to Toronto 3 years ago, and now he automatically kind of became number one, and that pissed off a lot of people, and a lot of Toronto fans are Reimer fans, and that bothered them. And then he automatically got it, and then Reimer essentially kind of beat Bernier for that position over the last 2-3 years. Especially this year, Reimer was really good, but he was injured for a bit. And he's a UFA at the end of the summer, and Leafs at least got a pick out of it. To my opinion is a little low, but what are you going to do? Hopefully, in the future, maybe the Leafs might still get Reimer in the summer. We'll see.
Yeah, and it'll be exciting to see Reimer playing with a team that has a much better offense that can score 3-4 goals a night, and Reimer doesn't give up that many goals on a regular basis. So it will be interesting to see them down the stretch and in the playoffs playing Jones or Reimer and see what happens. Yeah,
it would be pretty cool. Hopefully, maybe San Jose can pull a bit of an upset maybe in the first round. We'll see, because they got either the Ducks or the Kings looking like in the first round, right? So it'll be interesting. All right, let's move on to the Panthers, who went and got some depth in offense. One of the trades was Yuri Hudler for a second and a fourth. They picked up also Purcell from the Oilers for a third, and Jakob Kindl from the Wings for a sixth rounder in 2017. So that's quite a few players and who have decent opportunity to really help the Panthers in the playoffs.
Yeah, they pretty much responded to Blackhawks loading up, and they were like, well, if you're going to load up, I guess we got to load up. We're top in our division, so...
This is good. This gave me a lot of question marks, because automatically I'm thinking Panthers, very young, unknowledgeable, very little experience going into playoffs. I already had them way out. I had them, they might be kicked out and upset in the first round. But by getting a guy, even just like Yuri Hudler. This guy, he hasn't had a great season this year, but last year he was amazing. He's done fairly well in his career, especially even in the playoffs. And he could be a huge impact for them already.
Yeah, and it looks like right now he's gonna play with his countryman Yager, so
Yeah,
that definitely is gonna help out Hudler. Like, yeah, he's leaving Monahan and Gaudreau, but he's going to play with Yager, so that's a pretty good line mate.
yeah, and they're already joking around apparently. So it sounds like it'll be a good mix for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, second and fourth is a little bit high to give up, but I still think it's a good move by the Panthers, and it shows you that their organization is ready for that next push to go in the playoffs and try to win a few rounds at least.
Yeah, the fact they're trading away a lot of these draft picks, like, when's the last time Florida has traded away picks?
Yes,
It's been a while, so
they know that their core is in the team now. They're there. Their core is there. They won't need as many picks in the next 2 to 3 years because they have their main impact core right now, and they're going to go with them.
yeah.
So, oh well, you know what? It's good additions to the Panthers, and I hope that they can win a round or two, and that'll be exciting to see, especially good for the Panther fans.
Yeah, and the other crazy thing is the unsigned kid Dryden Hunt out of the WHL that's leading the WHL right now. He could go anywhere. He had a bunch of different suitors looking for signing him, and he signed his entry-level contract with the Panthers. So what does that say? That Panthers are now where young guys want to go? Like, that's pretty cool. So
why not?
Yeah, and they lost those draft picks and then they went and signed this guy and didn't even have to use a draft pick on him. So they're still building their team. They're still building their prospect depth. So it's cool to see the Panthers are becoming a legitimate team. Dale Talon's doing a fantastic job of that.
He sure has. All right, let's move on to Paul. What do you think? Justin Schultz going to the Penguins for a third-round pick?
If he's the Justin Schultz from this year, half of last year, I'm not too excited about it. But he's not going to be used like he was used in Edmonton. He's not going to be that top power play guy. He's not going to be the first, second, even third or fourth. He's going to be on the bottom pairing. He's probably going to fill in Ian Cole's spot because Ian Cole's been a scratch, but then Lovejoy got hurt. So I think he's going to fit in real well with the team. Definitely can move the puck. It's the defensive liability that might be a problem, but he's not going to play against top line guys. Like, that's going to be Letang and Mata and Daly and Dumoulin. So I think it's going to fit on our roster real well. And if it doesn't, then it didn't work out, and we lost a third round pick, and we never keep our picks anyways. So it's not a not a
and
huge
speaking about their, go ahead.
It's not a huge deal. I don't think to lose a third round pick. It's a great risk. I think Justin Schultz could end up being a really good depth defenseman, and he could be garbage, and we scratch him every night and stick with the lineup we got. So I think it was a great risk.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about your top pairing, Chris Letang and Oli, Mata, and I usually like to say father at the end. But he gets a new contract, right, Paul?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he's signed on long term. That's going to be awesome. Those two guys signed long term to our team. They're not going anywhere.
So it's 6 years at roughly about $4 million, eh?
I think that's what it was. I don't remember the exact number.
So it's about there. Do you like it?
Yeah.
You like
I'm a huge fan of Mata. Yeah.
Yeah.
He can look slow on some nights, but then out of nowhere he finds his game and unbelievable. So yeah, I'm excited to see him grow with the Penguins. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's a good contract. It's a good move on both sides.
Yeah.
All right, Chris Versteeg, Verbeauty, as people like to call him, goes to the Kings for Valentin Zykov and a conditional fifth. Again, Versteeg going to another playoff type team, and he's a versatile guy, and hopefully he adds some good depth for them. And Zikov is actually a pretty good prospect. I'm kind of surprised that the Kings gave the Canes a great prospect in Zikov, and he's a late second rounder, but I think he could be one of those hidden gems. I think he's a powerful. I like this kid, and he's a power forward type, and I think he could be pretty good NHL player come 2-3 years from now.
Yeah, it's going to add to Carolina's prospect depth.
Yep. So, a good on both sides, I think. It's a good move for both sides.
Versteeg if he finds his game with the Kings, that's going to be a great addition, and they're needed on the wing because Gabourik's out for quite a while, I think. So,
yeah,
they needed that scoring winger. So, hopefully Versteeg can find his scoring touch again.
Yeah, the Kings are a weird team. You think they have a lot of offensive punch, and they do at times, but sometimes they just go through droughts where they don't score at all. So it happens.
Yeah, and they still win games because they got Quick on the back end that can just shut down a team on any given night.
All right, back to the Leafs. And this time they trade Daniel Winnick and a fifth round pick. What? They're trading picks? I thought they were collecting $1 billion of them, but apparently they traded a fifth round pick to the Capitals, and to the Leafs comes Brooks Leitch, Connor Carrick, a great defensive prospect, and a second round pick in 2016. So they traded picks. They moved up in picks for the Leafs. They sent Winnick again at the deadline, and they get Brooks Leitch, who really has fallen out of favor with the Capitals. Good teammate and friend of Ovechkin. If people have been following on Twitter, they messaged each other back and forth a few times there. So yeah, he's really fallen out, and he hasn't had a good season this year. So, and there's another year still left on the Leitch contract, which is a bit of an albatross per se if he's not a huge impact NHL player anymore. Yep. And Connor Carrick is one of those guys that could be in the near future, maybe I think a second power play line guy, a second tier offensive defenseman. He's not too tall, but I think he looks like he could be a pretty good pickup for the Leafs there.
Yeah, he's going to be sneaky good. Like, he's just going to come out of nowhere, and people are going to be like, whoa, where did this Connor Carrick come from? And they're going to be like, well, remember Daniel Winnick? We got rid of him, so this is where we got him from. And Brooks Leitch, I think he's just going to be technically the same thing they did this year, loading up on UFAs that are at the end of the year, and they're going to trade him next year. He's going to be that trade bait for next year. So
he'll be that third-line center maybe for the next year for the Leafs. And, yeah, hopefully they can trade him next year and get a pick out of him.
Yeah, and it'll be a late-round pick, and they'll turn it into something else. They got so many picks that they're going to move up. They're going to move up and get their guys they want in the draft this year, next year. Yeah. That's what these teams are doing. They're just loading up on picks so they can move 2 fourths into the third round. And
do you know who the Leafs are going to trade next year?
Who's that?
The Leafs are also going to trade Daniel Winnick next year again for the third time.
Yeah, they're going to sign him and trade him again. Yeah.
All right. So the Pittsburgh Penguins, a small trade here, but what did you think, Paul, of them trading Sergei Plotnikov for Plaka in 7th?
When he got signed just before the season started, he was good buddies with Evgeny Malkin. They trained in the off season in Russia.
In training camp too, they looked great.
Yeah, and then it just fell apart, and I don't know what happened. He became a healthy scratch and could never get back in the lineup. And I don't think Mike Sullivan's a big fan of him, so.
He wants playing time, and I guess sending him to Arizona will give him at least third-line minutes.
And I really hope he does get some minutes and can put something together, because he is very likely off to Russia next year if nothing turns out in Phoenix or in Arizona. So,
yeah. Oh well, we'll see what happens. But that's a bit of an interesting trade. Avs pick up Bodker. And back to Coyotes go Alex Tanguay and Connor Blakely and Kyle Wood. So the Avs picking up Bodker. He seems like a good fit for them right now because he's about the same age as their guys right now, or a little bit older.
I think this is the trade of the deadline. This is big for Colorado. Bodker's going to be good with either Duchesne or McKinnon, whoever he plays with. He's on the power play. He played on the power play on Tuesday night. So I really think this is going to be the hidden gem. Everybody thinks it's just like, oh yeah, Mikhail Bodker's moving on.
Yeah.
He needs a new destination, new team.
Hey, Paul, you know what? We don't all watch hockey in the desert.
Oh, everybody should watch hockey everywhere.
But yeah, it's, the Coyotes games aren't as well seen or known. I wouldn't mind watching even the other guys, of course, Max Domi and the rest of them. They have Reeder and so on and so forth. And I love OEL. He's a great defenseman, so underrated as well, because they're playing on the Coyotes. They're not televised as much nationally out there. Games even in Canada on Sportsnet. We'll get even a lot of American games, but Coyote games almost never. So it's hard to see guys like Bodker play.
They're a team that I highly watch. I don't know why. Them, Edmonton obviously because McDavid,
yes.
But I watch a lot of the bad teams for some reason. I don't know why. I think because they have one or two flashy guys that I want to see pan out and see what they do, and if they do get moved, I'm a fan of Bodker. I really like Bodker as a player. He's sneaky good.
So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know if that's good enough for Colorado. I still think the Wild could jump. And you heard me, Paul. I said this weeks ago. I still think the Wild could jump the Avs. And now, since they changed the coach, they really look like they could.
I'm pretty sure they have already jumped. I think they're now.
Oh, they have?
Yeah,
they're back.
They're bottom spot.
Is this because of last night? I didn't check the standings.
Yes, I believe it is.
Nice. Yeah. Wicked. There you go. And I still think the Wild will keep this going. They just have so many pieces of the right puzzle not to lose these games. So, and hopefully their coach has really, really sparked something under them. So this is good for them. But on the other side, a guy that Paul didn't think would be a big impact player, but apparently was at the trade deadline, was Chris Russell going to the Dallas Stars. And to the Flames comes Yuri Jokipaka, who got an assist last night, another prospect in Brett Pollock, and a conditional second. This becomes a first-rounder if the Stars somehow get through St. Louis and Chicago. If they get to the conference finals, that conditional second becomes a first-rounder. Huge get for the Flames, don't you think?
Yeah, for Chris Russell, yeah, definitely. I'm not a huge fan of Chris Russell. I think everybody already knows that. We had that discussion a couple weeks ago. But Jyrki Jokipaka is going to be really good.
Yes.
He's going to move up to a 3-4 spot and be a great shutdown guy that can move the puck.
Yeah, he's an underrated, pretty good, not so much prospect anymore. He's a bit older now. But he's already has, I think, about 2 years under his belt playing on the back end for the Stars. And yeah, same here. I think he could be a top forward defenseman who silently does his job properly.
Yeah, and talking fantasy, I got Jokipaka in my deep 16-team, 50 guys on my roster, and I'm really excited. This might get him into my lineup. I wasn't playing him in Dallas, but this might move up his stock to either move him and get something better, because now everybody's going to think he's going to be better, but I think I'm going to hold on to him and see how it pans out next year.
Yeah. And Chris Russell going to the Stars, he's probably going to be same thing, like we think, maybe on the third pairing. And you know what? I kind of like Russell. I want a guy that's on his side, who I think he's a pretty good defenseman, and I think he can still get even better. So it'll be interesting with the Stars doing the playoffs, and now they've added Chris Russell. They're in for a battle, though. I don't know how much experience some of these guys have, but they've added a couple of guys like a Patrick Sharp and even Niemi in net and stuff that have a lot of experience in the playoffs. So it'll be pretty good, and it will be exciting to watch what happens with that division in the playoffs. St. Louis, Chicago, and Dallas. Wow. All right, a few other trades. This was kind of odd. So the Ducks pick up Brandon Peary from the Panthers for a sixth round pick. Wow.
Yeah, that's wild because we'll get to a couple more of these smaller trades for young guys for picks, but Brandon Peary is worth more than a 6th round pick. Like
Yes.
that.
Last year he had like 22 goals, and he was pretty much like a stud. And this year he's fallen out of favor, less ice time on a Panthers team who has a lot of young studs moving into these top roles. So, and then they pick up guys like Hoodler and stuff. So he's really fallen out, and they just get a sixth for him. So this is a good addition for the Ducks.
Yeah, this is a steal, big time.
Yeah, and then another odd move that the Ducks ship out, Pat Maroon. Did you see this one coming, Paul?
I did not. That
Yeah,
shocked me. It was very late. The trade deadline was kind of weird. There was nothing that happened all day, and then there was just a huge queue of teams at the deadline that were waiting for a pick. I think this trade was the last one that came in, and it was like 5 o'clock, 5:30, like 2.5 hours after the deadline. Like it was strange. I did not see it coming, and nor do I see the reasoning for it.
Yeah, I guess because he fit in well last year on the top line with Perry and Getzlaf, and they tried it this year. It just wasn't working. They put him on the depth, and they just felt like he wasn't fitting on the team that well anymore. And so they pick up a 4th-round pick in Martin Jernret, and I guess we'll see what happens with how Maroon fits in on Edmonton, who might fit in well there. We'll see.
It's going to add a little bit of grit, and the Ducks have gotten rid of a lot of grit. Like Bolesky's gone, Maroon's gone.
Yeah. Even when they added, they sent out Smith Pelly kind of player to Montreal for Sekash kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're trying to mesh in more of a two-way type player instead of more of the grit power forward type player in some of their roles now.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Other trades, Jamie McGinn. Also, there is a bit of the grit there going to Anaheim for a conditional third to Buffalo.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Sabres fans are going to be a little upset that McGinn didn't get signed and kept, but to get a 3rd-round pick for Jamie McGinn's pretty good.
Yeah, and that's where I think they're thinking maybe he can fit in that Maroon spot that he wasn't filling in well properly. Maybe I'm thinking that's what they're thinking here.
Yeah, that could very well be.
Yeah. And then the other one, New Jersey hasn't been. I've been gone for 2 weeks, and New Jersey looked like they had maybe a playoff spot. Now they've fallen off a lot. So they made a couple of trades, and one of them is Stepniak, who's played really well for them this year, going to the Bruins. But the Bruins give up a 2nd and a 4th for Stepniak.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with he had a good start to the season, and he's shown that he can score, but for a rental, that's a lot to move. But maybe they're thinking because they couldn't move Eriksson, so they wanted Stempniak, and maybe they outbid another team, but maybe they thought a 2nd and a 4th for Stempniak, and they're using Eriksson like a rental right now, so maybe they thought they could give up that extra pick because they're keeping Eriksson.
It's weird. Yeah, and then so they get Lee Stempniak from the Devils, and then they also pick up John Michael Lyles, the Bruins do, for Anthony Kamara, a 3rd-round pick in 2016, and a 5th-round pick in 2017. Lyles is a guy that was almost barely trying to find ice time in the NHL, but had a decent season this year for the Hurricanes, who were looking for guys to fill in spots. And now the Bruins get Lyles, and again, they give up a lot of picks here.
Yeah, a lot of teams are just throwing away picks, and I think it's going to come back and bite them in the butts in 2 or 3 years, because it's weird that they trade 2008. This one trade was 16 and 17, but a lot of 2018 draft picks
as well. 17 and 18, yeah.
Maybe there's a thing that the 2018 is not going to be as deep of a draft. Like 2016 is going to be a really, really good draft.
This one,
so.
yeah. We'll see. But you know what? Again, Carolina's not a team that I've seen too much of. But statistically, Lyles has shown he's been pretty good this year. But on the depth chart, I don't know. I don't see Lyles getting too much ice time. So it seems like a depth move, obviously. But again, a lot of picks to give up for him. So I don't think Bruins have won these trades. But hopefully Stempniak or Lyles do well for them in the playoffs. We were saying before, the Islanders pick up Shane Prince in a 7th round pick. And they send a 3rd round pick to Ottawa.
Yeah, and then they are going to play him with Tavares and Strome on the top line.
Wow.
So I guess they're trying to figure out if this kid's the real deal.
I guess so. That's pretty crazy. Already getting play with Big JT.
Yeah, and like Shane Prince goes for a 3rd round pick, but then Brandon Peary, who's shown he is an NHL 20 goal scorer, gets a 6th round pick. Like, I think that's it's either Peary's way too low, like 6th round is way too crummy of a pick compared to Shane Prince, who got a 3rd round pick. Like, it's crazy.
It's some of these trades are a little odd. And there's a lot of other prospects and trades going back and forth. Another one, the Blackhawks pick up some depth in Tim Jackman and get a 7th round pick, and they trade Corey Tropp to the Ducks. So maybe Tropp might get some ice time on the Ducks. We'll see. But Chicago picked up a lot of forwards and stuff, so Tropp is way down on the depth chart, I guess. And they get a guy like Tim Jackman who will probably be that 7th, 8th guy for them.
Yeah, there were a lot of AHL deals, like deals that just AHL guys are going to stay in the AHL. They're not really going to move into the NHL like a lot more than any other year, I think.
Yeah, like that Ottawa-Buffalo trade was wild. I was like, all right, these guys are they're in the AHL. They're junior players. Who are these guys? Kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
the Atkinson and Verone and deal for Guptill and Odell and stuff. So yeah,
and it was really odd because they're like the top scoring AHL guys on those teams. Like, they traded two of their top scorers for 2 of the top scorers. Like, I don't know if they just thought a new look. I don't really understand those deals. Like,
yeah. So obviously they don't care so much how their AHL team does, I guess, but they're hoping that maybe they find something else on another organization and they move even further up the depth chart. So we'll see. And that's pretty much it. The Flames picked up Nicholas Backstrom, who's pretty much done his NHL career per se, and they're moving a contract over to Flames, who get a 6th round pick as well, for David Jones going to the Wild, who hope maybe he can fill in a good power forward spot for them for the playoff push.
Yeah, I don't really understand the Backstrom. I don't know if he's going to play again.
I think it's more just moving that contract over, and Calgary Flames are going to pay the rest of that contract, and they get a 6th round pick out of it for Jones, who might fill in a lower, bottom 6th spot for the Wild going into the playoff push. So, that's pretty much a lot of the trades. But you were saying that you like the Bodker one the most.
Yeah, that's my trade of the deadline.
Yeah, I was the Hawks. They look ready. Andrew Ladd, and then Fleischmann and Weiss. That's crazy. They've added a lot of pieces to an already solid playoff dynasty team. So, wow.
Yeah, that Friday Saturday was crazy. Like,
yeah, the weekend was a little more busier and stuff. Yeah,
it seemed like the GMs had the wrong deadline day. Like, it's wild that how many trades were made that much earlier than the deadline. Those trades normally get made on deadline day because it's last minute bidding and teams lost out on another guy, but Blackhawks wanted their guys, I guess, so they went and bought them out. Yeah.
All right, well, that was a long time talking about the trade deadline, but that's what it is. It's a huge deadline. we'll see how long the episode will be, Paul, in the summer when we talk about free agencies.
Yeah.
That'll be wild. But I wanted to mention it, of course. The Leafs have started the rebuild. The next generation has started. On Monday night, Nylander, Willie, Sammy Kapanen's son, Kasperi, Shushinkov, and Hyman played on Monday night for the Maple Leafs. I didn't get to watch the game, though, but I will tonight for Wednesday. I'm going to watch Leafs tonight, and I will be glued to the screen watching it. Did you see any of the highlights, Paul, for Monday?
I watched some of the game, not all of it, but I did PVR it because you went on Twitter and asked for it to be PVR'd. I don't know how I would get it to you, but I did PVR it because I was like, yeah, that's kind of neat. I wanted to see how Nylander did, and he had a couple scoring chances, so did Kapanen. So these kids I think they're going to be on a little bit of a learning curve compared to the AHL. They're not going to be able to dance around guys as much, and they're going to have to try and score on their scoring opportunities. They're not going to get as many as they did in the AHL, so I think that'll be their big learning curve, that they're not just going to be snipe shows like they are for the Marlies. So
yeah, for sure.
And
I think, go ahead.
Kapanen he seemed very down that he didn't score at the very end when they were pushing, and the fact that those kids were out at the end of the game trying to win the game, and Kapanen missed on a shot, and in the dressing room he was very upset that he missed out, and it's like, well, that's going to be their learning curve. These kids are good, but they just have to learn that they're going to get less scoring chances, and those scoring chances are going to be fewer and fewer goals compared to the AHL. That's just the way the NHL is played now.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be talking about them more in the next episode. I'm going to watch some of the highlights as soon as we're done this episode of that game. But from what I heard, I even heard Shushinkov was pretty good in the game, and he's another decent prospect that will be on the Leafs lineup. But I think they're just testing the waters with these kids. Just for a couple of games, I don't think they're going to try to hit that 8-game, lock of the contract. So I think they're just testing the waters, and then they're going to send them back to the Marlies and bring up some of the other guys like Arcobello and so on and so forth to finish the season. But there's a great outlook for the Leafs. And you know what? They kept it really close. They lost 2-1 against the Lightning, who are on fire right now. What, have the Lightning won like 7 straight games now?
Yeah, they're playing real well. So the fact that they kept with them is pretty good.
Yeah, and they, from what I heard, they all played pretty well. And they kept it a good close game, which the Leafs haven't been able to in the last few weeks, especially because of the injuries and trades. But this looks good for the Leafs, and hopefully the future does look a lot brighter. All right, let's end the episode. Paul, who's the prospect of the week?
Tyler Wong of the Lethbridge Hurricanes. 3 games last week, 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points. These guys are scoring at a crazy rate. It's unreal how much scoring there is in juniors. He's undrafted. He's a 20-year-old, so he's looking for a contract. Maybe he'll be like Dryden Hunt, sign an entry-level contract with a team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's much talks going on with signing contracts, so he'll probably get a tryout next year and maybe end up on an AHL team. But the Lethbridge Hurricanes are tied with Brandon Wheat Kings for first in the Eastern Conference at 84 points. So
wow,
that's a good battle.
That is. That's pretty high up there. Wow.
Yeah, and there's only like 10 games these teams have left to play. So the junior playoffs are starting soon. I'm getting pumped.
It's great. Always on Sportsnet Friday night, right? They have some good junior hockey games, so check those out too.
And Sunday afternoons.
Yep. All right, that's it for this episode. It was a nice long one, talking about the trade deadline. Next episode, we will now talk about those World Cup rosters that were announced today. Lots of teams. What, did Jágr not make the Czech team? Sounds crazy, sounds weird. But we will talk about that.
Yeah.
And we will team ISO the Pittsburgh Penguins, Paul's team. And Paul will also give us the fantasy up and down and getting you ready for your fantasy playoffs with that stuff and a fantasy tip. We'll see you next episode. I hope you enjoyed this one.
Bye.